I should have turned around. The second I noticed the 8th floor hallway was a foot longer than it had been that morning. I remember standing there in the stale, fluorescent yellow glow, holding the grocery bag for my first night as a tenant in that old building, and realizing the exit sign was now farther away than it should be. It wasn't the kind of thing you can explain without sounding unhinged, but the air itself felt stretched, like the building had taken a slow, quiet breath. Sent by Javier R., Trenton, New Jersey. I moved into Ridgeway Apartments because the rent was absurdly low for the area. I'm a warehouse forklift operator, living alone, trying to save money after a rough year. The building was old enough that the hallways hummed from the outdated lights, and the walls had that faint chalky smell like someone had been sanding plaster for decades. But the neighbors barely spoke. The place was quiet, and for the first 48 hours, everything felt normal. The first real problem started on my third night, around midnight. I couldn't sleep, mostly because of the strange behavior of the environment around my unit. The dominant sensory thing that kept bothering me was how the hall outside my apartment felt subtly wrong every time I opened the door. The light seemed to shift a fraction of a shade warmer or colder, the distance to the elevator slightly off. The radiator hummed too slow or too fast, never the same twice. And then I found the note. It was slipped under my door while I was showering. Cheap printer paper, thin enough that the ink bled a little. Just one sentence. Do not acknowledge the one that moves wrong. I stood there dripping onto the carpet, reading it over and over. I didn't know if it was a prank, or some unhinged neighbor, or maybe even the landlord being cryptic, but something inside me tightened. I went to check the peephole. No one was there. No footsteps. Nothing. I crumpled the note and tossed it. Should have kept it. At 2 a.m, I decided to get a soda from the vending machine on the ground floor. It was the only machine in the building that still worked. When I opened my door, the hallway seemed narrower, just slightly. Barely noticeable except the light above flickered once, then steadied. Halfway down the hallway, I heard it. A soft, dragging whisper of movement. Not footsteps. More like fabric brushing concrete, but slow, deliberate. The signature sound of the thing I hadn't seen yet. It echoed faintly through the stretched corridor, out of rhythm with the humming lights. I froze. The rule, though I didn't know it yet, was simple. It only moved when unobserved. The restriction. It had to stay within the boundaries of the hallway itself. Its escalation pattern. Each time you noticed something wrong about the building, the entity grew bolder, more visible, more synchronized with the environment's distortions, and its signature behavior. It corrected its posture too late, like a man remembering how to stand only after noticing you were looking. I only learned these rules because I survived. That first night, I didn't see it fully. I reached the elevator, pressed the button, and kept my eyes on the far end of the hall. Something was there. A shape leaning too far forward, like someone forgetting what upright meant. Then the lights flickered, and in the brief dark, the shape vanished. When the lights returned, the hallway looked several feet shorter, the walls slightly angled inward. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. But leaving for work, I realized the hallway had returned to normal length, almost perfectly so. Only the exit sign was now screwed in slightly higher than before, leaving a clean square outline of dust where it used to sit lower. Someone moved it, or something did. The real incident happened 4 nights later. I'd been lying on the couch trying to fall asleep. My bedroom never felt right. The air felt pressurized, like the walls were subtly pulsing. Around 3 a.m., I heard that soft, dragging whisper again, but this time it was directly outside my apartment door. Not just in the hallway. Right outside. My phone glitched when I tried to open the camera. The screen turned gray, then cut to black. Total technological failure. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept near the couch and crept toward the door, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my teeth. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was wrong again. Too deep, stretched much longer than it should have been. The far end faded into a yellow haze where the light couldn't reach. I saw something moving far down the hallway, slow and jerking like a badly timed animatronic. A figure. Tall, rigid, its arms hanging too straight at its sides. Then it did something that nearly broke me. It snapped upright, not quickly, not in a single motion, but piece by piece, as if adjusting its body to mimic correct posture. Shoulders lifted, then hips, then knees, then head, like it was rearranging itself to appear human. And then it looked directly at my apartment door. I staggered back so fast I hit the wall. My legs almost gave out. I thought about calling someone, but who would believe me? The details were insane. This was psychological isolation in its purest form. I sounded like a madman even inside my own head. I turned off every light in my apartment and sat on the couch with the bat across my lap. The dragging whisper continued outside, pacing, slow, methodical. Around 4 a.m., everything went silent. At 5, my doorknob twitched. I stopped breathing. I held the bat so tight my fingers hurt. And then someone knocked. 3 soft, slow knocks. Nothing human about the rhythm. Nothing human at all. I didn't move until daylight. When I finally opened the door, the hallway looked normal again. Perfectly normal. Except for one thing. Another note. You saw it. It knows. Do not enter the hallway again after dark. That day I tried to get answers. The building manager refused to talk. My upstairs neighbor shut the door in my face. The only guy on my floor who even made eye contact whispered something I'll never forget before he retreated into his unit. It doesn't know how to be human until you teach it by looking at it. That night I stayed in my apartment. I locked the door, shoved a chair against it, and tried to distract myself online. The lights above my couch flickered twice. Then the room seemed to subtly lengthen, like the apartment itself was beginning to match the hallway's distortions. At 2:17 a.m., the dragging whisper started again, closer. This time I realized something horrifying. It wasn't moving outside my door. It was inside the walls. The drywall behind my couch bulged forward an inch, then receded. Something was pressing against it, feeling its way around, tracing the shape of my furniture through the plaster. The room stretched another few inches. The air warped, bending slightly as if I were sitting at the end of a long, narrowing tunnel. My phone vibrated. No caller ID. I answered without thinking. A voice hissed, soft, wrong, like someone using brand new vocal cords. Javier. A pause, then a slow exhale, like it was trying to imitate a sigh. I see you sitting. If you're enjoying these true horror stories, make sure to subscribe to Ultra Spooky and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we upload new nightmares. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. The voice had sounded like mine, almost. Just slightly delayed, the words a fraction too spaced out. The drywall cracked behind me. I grabbed my keys and ran, ignoring the rule about the hallway. I didn't care anymore. I flung the door open and sprinted toward the elevator. The hallway was longer than I had ever seen it. It stretched impossibly far, on and on, the exit sign shrinking into the distance. The lights flickered in a cascading pattern, one by one, like something was moving beneath them, following me. I didn't look. I couldn't. All I heard was the dragging whisper growing faster. I made it to the stairs instead, bolting down all 8 floors. When I burst out into the cold night air, the building seemed to exhale behind me, the windows all dimmed at once. I never went back. I left everything I owned inside. The landlord refused to let me retrieve my belongings, claiming a legal dispute had locked the unit. But yesterday, a small padded envelope arrived at my new address. No return label, no explanation. Inside was my apartment's peephole, removed from the door, bent slightly at the rim, like something had pried it out from the inside. This was just one of many terrifying true stories from the Ultra Spooky archives. Stay tuned for our next tale of horror.